Welcome to this week's edition of Mississippi Happenings. My name is David Oles. I'm your co-host, and along with me is my friend and cohort, Mr. Jim Newman. Jim, good morning.
Good morning, Mississippi.
How's the broken arm? You dealing better with that?
It's coming along. It's still attached.
Okay, well, we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Jim, I got to share something with you that I read. This is just crazy. This is crazy. Okay.
Turn your volume up.
And bear with me a little bit. A Florida couple is arrested for selling tickets to heaven. Ah, yes. In Florida, imagine that. Tito and Manda Watts were arrested a few days ago selling golden tickets to heaven to hundreds of people. They sold the tickets on the street for $99.99. And they were told the tickets were made of solid gold. And that each ticket reserved them a spot in heaven. Simply present the ticket at the pearly gates and you are in. And this just gets better. Tito Watts, in his statement, says, "I do not care what the police say. These tickets are solid gold, and it was Jesus who gave them to me behind the KFC and told me to sell them so I could get some money to go to outer space." Also, the alien has a name, and the name of the alien is Stevie. Who said if I got the cash together, he would take me and my wife on his flying saucer to his planet that is made entirely of drugs. Okie dokie. Well, there you go. There's your story. Police said they confiscated over $10,000 in cash, drug paraphernalia, and a baby alligator. I mean, you can't make this up. You know, Jimmy Fallon couldn't write something like this. But anyway, but it's good to be here, and I do want to. This week we're going to do something a little bit different. As you know, we always talk about politics and issues of Mississippi, and affect the kitchen table issues that affect people in Mississippi. And we're still on that, but we also want to talk a little bit about Mississippi history. We do criticize, Jim and I do criticize Mississippi a little bit, but we also love Mississippi. We are Mississippians. And there's a lot of Mississippi history that I think seems to be forgotten, and other people think that's forgotten too. But we have a rich history with the Native Americans. And today, joining us, I want to introduce the CEO of the Chickasaw Inkana Foundation. Joining us this day is Mr. Brady Davis. Brady, it's great to have you with us. And if I mispronounce something, please correct me. Good to have you for this.
You did perfect, and thank you so much for the invitation. It's a privilege to be here.
Good. In going through, we know what we could find in the history books and on Wikipedia, but if you would talk to us a little bit about the history of the Chickasaw tribe in Mississippi and some of the things, basically a little bit about the history and also about now, what's going on now as well.
Wonderful. Yes. So a great place would be starting with some oral history. One story being the migration story. So how do the Chickasaw people believe they came to this area? And there were two brothers, Chickasaw and Chata, and their group lived far in the west. And after having interactions, meetings with the Hopai or the prophets, they were instructed that they would need to move east. And so they were given a sacred pole, and I always uh, have trouble pronouncing this the right way. And it is the Iti Fabasa Halitopa, which is sacred pole in Chickasaw. And they would set this pole in the ground every evening. And whichever way the pole was leaning, that's the way that they would travel the next day. And so they never discuss how long that journey took. But eventually, they came to a great river. And we believe this to be the Mississippi. And one other interesting part of that story is that they were protected on their travels by a great white dog, Toby Ishto. And that dog is held, very sacred to the Chickasaw people today. It's used in a lot of different media. We'll be using, the Chickasaw Heritage Center, and there's also the White Dog Press today. But uh, you know, after they crossed the river, they set the pole in the ground once more. And the next day, there was some disagreement as to which way the pole was leaning. Chickasaw and his followers believed that the pole was still leaning to the east, while Chata and his followers believed that the pole was standing straight and that they had found their new home. So the group split, and Chata and his followers became the Choctaw, and Chickasaw and his followers became the Chickasaw. And one interesting point of that also is that the language, all southeastern Indians speak a dialect of the Muskegon language family, and the Chickasaw and Choctaw's language is extremely similar, where they can nearly speak to each other and understand each other quite well.
Well, when they were told to leave, I assume it was the U.S. government.
Oh, this is in time in memoriam. Very,
Okay.
very long in the past. There's some that speak more than 10,000 years ago. There's no set
Okay.
time
Gotcha.
of when that group moved from the west to the east and found their new homeland.
So did the Chickasaw come back across the Mississippi River?
From east to west, or
Yes.
west?
From west to east.
No, so they came across during the migration. They came from the west to the east, crossed what we believe is the Mississippi River into today, what is today Mississippi. And once they crossed into what is today Mississippi, Chickasaw and his followers believed that the pole was still leaning, so they continued to travel and became the Chickasaw. And Choctaw's followers believed that they had found their homeland, and so they stayed there. And
okay. So my house here in
this
Tupelo.
Is an ancient story.
So my house
eventually
here in
they made their way.
Okay. So my house here in Tupelo was probably sitting on what was Native American soil.
Oh yes, without a doubt. The today's Tupelo, Mississippi, is the heart of the historic Chickasaw homeland. All of your major settlements, Chocolisa, Kunwa, Chocofalaya Longtown, Ayanaka, which is just to the south of us. All those major settlements were right here in this area from the mid 1600s through removal. The Chickasaw are actually the first tribe that was encountered by the DeSoto expedition in the winter of 1540, 1541, as they crossed the Tombigbee River. That was a little further to the south. We're not sure exactly where that took place, somewhere between Aberdeen, Columbus, Starkville, that triangle, and between contact with the Spanish during that time in the mid 1600s. The Chickasaw migrated up the Blackland Prairie, which is an endangered ecological zone that ran in a crescent from part of Tennessee through northeast Mississippi into Alabama. And so it's known for its rolling hills, open prairie, and home to a lot of unique plain species, both animals and plants. And today it's an endangered ecosystem because most of it's been destroyed by agriculture and development. And so actually one of the largest visible areas of Blackland Prairie today that the public can see is the Chickasaw Village site on the Natchez Trace.
Just north of Tupelo, I guess maybe 30 miles or so, is an Indian burial mountains.
Oh, so Far Mounds is located around 30 miles to the north of Tupelo. That is a middle woodland mound site. Middle woodland would be somewhere around 400 AD.
Gosh.
And so ancestors to the contemporary Chickasaw.
Right.
And there's a lot of those mound sites. Mississippi, if we switch gears from oral history to the archaeological record, what is today the state of Mississippi had one of the largest late prehistoric Mississippian populations east of the Mississippi. The Mississippi Delta had many large late prehistoric mound sites, and there were some in northeast Mississippi as well. You have Owl Creek mounds, which is down by Davis Lake. You have of course the Middle Woodland Complex at Far. You have a couple of others as you head south, and then that's once you get down to Natchez, that's where you had the Natchez Indians. And what's unique about the Natchez Indians is that they're a language isolate. They spoke a language unlike any of the other Muskegon languages, and they were one of the last tribes in the southeast practicing that late prehistoric Mississippian tradition of mound building when the French encountered them. So there's some writings out there about observations of that culture. It's really unique.
One thing we haven't done, Brady, tell us about your education. I mean, I know what it is, but for our audience, how are you?
Sure. Absolutely. And so I was always interested in history. My grandfather would tell me stories and take me out in the woods. And when I went to college, I discovered anthropology, specifically archaeology. And so I studied anthropology, history, and political science at Middle Tennessee State University, and then moved to Mississippi in 2009 and finished my master's at University of Southern Mississippi. To the top, got to plug Southern.
Ah,
Yes.
And there I did bioarchaeology, archaeology, some forensic anthropology that I'd also done up in Tennessee. And from there, I was hired by Chickasaw Nation tribal government as an archaeologist and a site manager to preserve a village called Chishatala or Post Oak Grove, just west of Tupelo near County Line Road, where we head into Pontotoc. And I was the second Chickasaw Nation employee hired in Mississippi. Myself and one other were hired at the same time in 2012. There was already an archaeologist named Dr. Brad Lieb, lives in Jackson. And, we took care of Chichatala for a few years, but our program began to grow exponentially. And, today we have nearly 20 Chickasaw Nation employees and Incana Foundation employees here in the state.
And you're building a
That's-
cultural center.
Yes, we are building the Chickasaw Heritage Center, and there's a whole history just with the development of that center itself. We can talk a little bit more about history, or we can go into the Incana Foundation and the CHC if you like.
Well,
Whatever direction y'all want to go.
Well, we do want to go in that direction and maybe get away from the history a little bit, because I think what you're leading to is all of this is pretty history and what we could find out. But political science and anthropology, that's kind of, you have a wide range of experience and education on this. I mean, that's you normally don't put political science and anthropology together, but I love the way that you did that. Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the Heritage Center and what's going on now instead of what's in the past.
Okay, great. Well, right before we hit the Chickasaw Heritage Center, I want to just mention the Chickasaw Inkana Foundation for just a moment, and really just kind of pick up from where I left off with coming to Tupelo. So the Chickasaw Inkana Foundation was started in 2014 with a mission to preserve, protect, and interpret Chickasaw history and culture here in the historic Chickasaw homeland, which is quite large, actually. All of northeast Mississippi, West Tennessee, far northwestern Alabama, and just a little sliver of southwestern Kentucky. But as I mentioned earlier, the heart of that homeland where the majority of Chickasaws lived up until removal is right around today's Tupelo, Mississippi. There were some groups out towards Holly Springs and some up in Florence, Alabama after a time. But until about 1800, most lived in this area. And so, as I mentioned, I started working in Tupelo in 2012, and we were already working on the beginnings of a Chickasaw Heritage Center. Now, that story goes back over 40 years, and I'll hit on that in a moment. But the Chickasaw Inkana Foundation was a vision by Chickasaw Nation's Governor Anatopi to have a grassroots organization in the homeland that was dedicated to the preservation and protection of Chickasaw history and culture, but also lead the development of a Chickasaw Heritage Center. And so the board of the Chickasaw Inkana Foundation is made up of many Mississippi residents as well as members in the leadership of Chickasaw Nation. And we've worked together for a number of years to raise money and develop the Chickasaw Heritage Center. The Chickasaw Inkana Foundation, not only is spearheading the Chickasaw Heritage Center, But we also do a lot of education and outreach programming, and we preserve and protect endangered archaeological sites. So we have 3 sites that we own and protect, and we have multiple programs throughout the year that we put on, a lot by request. We do some work in Shiloh, put on a little Chickasaw festival up there. We've done small Chickasaw celebrations in cities such as Tupelo, Pontotoc, Amory, towards Memphis, over the years. And we have multiple events that we put on in Tupelo each year, one being Piaminko Day, which, as Jim mentioned earlier, there is a statue of Piaminko, a very famous Chickasaw leader, just outside of City Hall here in Tupelo. And what's interesting is that across the field, the plaza there, there's a statue of Elvis as well. And the statue of Piaminko was placed there before the statue of Elvis.
Yep.
And so every year we do a wreath laying ceremony and have a program, and we've recently expanded that into almost a small Chickasaw festival with information tables, tools and weapons, stickball, uh, crafts, some talks, and food trucks come, and we've really turned it into a half a day event instead of a 2 hour program.
Uh-huh.
And so we're really excited about that. It brings a lot of families out because it's on what people traditionally call Columbus Day, but what many First American groups call Indigenous Peoples Day. But since 2008, the Chickasaw Nation has referred to it as Piaminko Day. And so we put on a First American Veterans Program, and we also have an annual gala, which is a major fundraiser for the Chickasaw Heritage Center, and that's coming up in November. So I believe October 13th is Piaminko Day, so the second Monday in October, and then the gala will be Thursday, September 13th. And so to talk a little bit about the Chickasaw Heritage Center, which has been 40 years in the making. In 1980, there was a group of individuals in the Tupelo area, one being Miss Jamie Joyner, another being Miss Doyce Dees, and Jack Reed Sr. Made up 3 of the members of that group, and they wanted to find a way to build a Chickasaw museum here in the homeland. And they were able to receive some money that brought down an archaeologist from Harvard for 2 years and identified many Chickasaw sites, but nothing ever came out of that. So the project has kind of ebbed and flowed over time. It picked back up in 1990 when the city of Tupelo was looking at providing some land for a Chickasaw Heritage Center in East Tupelo, and that never materialized either. There was a large Chickasaw site unearthed in 1994 where the pain management center is for North Mississippi Medical Center. And at that point, there are 22 burials located at that site. And that culminated in the first repatriation of Chickasaw ancestors to the homeland. Those were reburied in 96 with a large ceremony. And Governor Anatobi provided a quote at that time mentioning that around 8 years ago they had discussed a Chickasaw Heritage Center, and that was still on the agenda, and that it's time for the Chickasaw people to have a presence in the homeland. And so it kind of fell off a little bit for a while after that. But in the early 2000s, after the acquisition of Chichatala by the Archaeological Conservancy, which is now managed by Chickasaw Nation, the desire to build a Chickasaw Heritage Center came back up to the surface, and the late Senator Thad Cochran was able to appropriate a couple $1 million to the Department of the Interior for some feasibility studies. So there was a working with Department of the Interior, Chickasaw Nation, we were looking at building a small interpretive center that was likely going to be at the Chickasaw Village site on the Natchez Trace, which is between McCullough Boulevard and Jackson Street here in Tupelo. And so that project went from around 2012 to 2015, but there was no funding ever provided for construction. And I remember I started my first day working with the tribe was my birthday, August 12th, 2012. Uh, and so not long after that, I was in some of the first meetings with the National Park Service and the tribe discussing those plans. And around 2015, it was decided. So this is a year after the Incana Foundation was started. In 2015, it was decided that Chickasaw Nation and Department of the Interior would go their separate ways, and we would look at another way of developing the Heritage Center. And so the Chickasaw Inkana Foundation purchased 163 acres behind the Chickasaw Village site, so our Gun Club Road neighborhood near the airport. And so we purchased 163 acres and began the process of developing our own Heritage Center. And at that time, the Department of the Interior also provided a right-of-way. So the access point to the Heritage Center would be off the Natchez Trace itself, which is a rarity to have access to a facility such as this off a national park. And so that began the fundraising effort and the planning for what we are seeing being constructed today. That started in 2016, and I was over the Homeland Affairs tribal government offices here until 2019. Moved over to the foundation in 2019 to help push the continued development and the fundraising for the Chickasaw Heritage Center. We received our first $50,000 in 2019, and since then we've raised over $44 million of the $60 million project. So we still have a little ways to go in terms of fundraising, but we have everything that we need for phase one of the project. And so construction is broken up into two phases. Phase one is a 10,000 square foot exhibit hall, an art gallery, gift shop, multi-purpose room, a beautiful lobby atrium with very tall windows that looks to the east, as traditional Chickasaw structures did. And we're restoring over 30 acres of blackland prairie right out of that window next to a large open plaza there.
Brady?
Yes.
Go back to where you were talking about the windows looking out east as traditional. I didn't quite understand that.
Oh, yes. So traditional Chickasaw structures, the opening faced to the east.
Faces to the east?
Yes, that's correct.
Is that for lack of a better word, a religious?
So the direction of the rising sun.
Yes. Okay.
So beginnings. But yes, so with the restoration of the Blackland Prairie, that'll connect to the Natchez Trace Parkway's Blackland Prairie restoration as well. Phase two of the facility will be a full cafe and a theater a playground, and we're working on the athletic field, stickball field right now. There'll also be trails throughout the entire property that will eventually connect to the National Scenic Trail of the Natchez Trace Parkway. And if you've heard about the potential Greenway project in the city of Tupelo,
Yeah.
we'll have our own access off of the Greenway trail as well. But one of the most interesting and personally, I believe the most vital theme of the Chickasaw Heritage Center is that it will tell the history and culture of the Chickasaw people through their lens, through their experience. And so it's a heritage center. You can call it a museum as well, but you're learning about not only Chickasaw history, but Chickasaw culture, who the Chickasaw people are, and how they see themselves in the world and their traditions. And of course, most of that is, pre-removal history and culture, oral histories, information about elements of culture, language. Um, I'm trying to think of a couple of specifics. Language, different types of activities, and why those were important culturally. Uh, our warriors, uh, different treaties, and then also a little bit about Chickasaw dances, and then information about how life changed through time from the late prehistoric through the historic period. And of course, it'll also discuss some more difficult topics such as removal itself. But
Mm-hmm.
one of the interesting exhibits that I'm excited about is Chickasaw people today. And so when people think about First Americans, they immediately think about the past. They don't think about uh, who these people are today. And the unconquered and unconquerable Chickasaw Nation is uh, a very successful tribe today with a vibrant contemporary culture, and uh, and they understand the importance of their past as well. One of the neat things is there's a Rosetta Stone Chickasaw, and so there's a language revitalization program. There's the Chickasaw Cultural Center in Sulphur, Oklahoma. Um, and in terms of economic developments, they have Chickasaw Nation Industries. And of course, they have the Chickasaw Nation Department of Commerce. And so the Chickasaw Nation itself has made great strides in, in economic development uh, in Oklahoma, where they were removed to, and and also beyond. And I encourage people to do some research into Chickasaw Nation Industries. It's very interesting.
Where is
Earlier
the
in the
largest
conversation,
concentration of Chickasaw
South
Native
Central
Americans?
Oklahoma. South
In
Central
Oklahoma?
Oklahoma. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
North of Tulsa?
No, south of Oklahoma City.
South of Oklahoma City? Oh,
Yes. So
okay.
today's Chickasaw Nation runs from around Norman south to the border of Texas.
Ah,
So
well, having
takes
lived
up
in
a
Tulsa, I'm familiar with the Indian population there.
yes, the Muskogee Creeks
Yes.
are there absolutely. Uh,
Brady, I'm sorry.
yes,
Earlier in the conversation, you did mention when the foundation started roughly 40 years ago. I think you mentioned Jack Reed Sr. as one of the founding members. Is that correct?
yes, and
Jack Reed Sr.?
yes, and Jack Reed Jr. is a member of our board today.
Good. Okay, good. That's good to know. We had a great conversation with Jack Reed Jr. When we were talking about desegregation in Mississippi and how Jack Sr. was so involved in that, and the 13, 14 years it took to get desegregation in Mississippi.
Yes.
So,
And Jamie Joyner, who was also in that 1980s group, she is our current chairperson.
oh, great.
And so there's a lot of continuity through time in the families and individuals that have been interested in helping create this center.
They say it sounds like they've just really dug in and stayed in, which is admirable. That's for sure. So what's you give us the 40-year history and what's going on, but and I may have misunderstood. So the Chickasaw Heritage Center, it's up and running. Is that what I understood?
No, we are currently under construction. We broke ground in June of 24, and just a few weeks ago, the concrete pad is nearly finished, and we have structural steel framing in the phase one facility. So we're very excited about the progress that we've made. We'll be opening phase one in November of 26.
Okay.
And one of the neat things that I haven't mentioned yet about the Heritage Center, in terms of economic development, we're looking at $5.66 million annual economic impact, upwards of 100,000 visitors a year. We're creating around 25 jobs, give or take one or two for phase one. And we're not 100% sure how many will be created throughout the whole project. And I mentioned that this is a 160 acre plus campus. This is going to be an anchor, not only for cultural heritage tourism, but an anchor for the community. The property itself will be free to access. The cost will be associated with the exhibit hall. And then once we have the theater and the cafe, if you want something to eat. But if you can name me another place in Northeast Mississippi that sits on 100+ acres that will have trails, a playground, a cafe, a theater, and also an immersive educational experience about First American history and culture, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
This will be a place where regional families, people in Tupelo, Shannon, Nettleton, Boonville, Holly Springs, and beyond, come on a Saturday morning to play, to walk trails, to see an educational video, to walk through the exhibit halls, to experience the reconstructed Chickasaw Village overlooking the Blackland Prairie. I have two children. They're 10 and 11 years old, and we'll be at that site often. And one of the neat things that the Chickasaw Cultural Center in Sulphur, Oklahoma does is they have a huge theater there, but they do Sundays $5 for a drink and popcorn and do a movie. And while our theater will be smaller than that, we'll be able to put on programming like that as well too. And so I always, when I'm pitching this to people, I'll say, my kids are 10 and 11, the playground, but once you get into December, when we're still wearing shorts in early December, you can come walk the trails, get something to eat, and we might have a Christmas story playing on a Sunday afternoon. So you and your family can come enjoy the Chickasaw Heritage Center, learn about Chickasaw history and culture, enjoy a traditional meal or a contemporary meal, as our cafe will have traditional Chickasaw dishes as well as other contemporary American fare, and then buy a ticket, get a drink and some popcorn, and watch a Christmas story with your family. And so we'll be able to provide an abundance of activities, not only associated with Chickasaw history and culture, but family activities. And areas of the center will be rentable for corporate and family events. And so that brings me back around to this anchor for the community, a place where families and individuals and others can come and have a good experience.
Well, I'm excited, and I live in Olive Branch, so I'm north of you. But I can see this as number one. I'd love to bring my 6 grandkids, to there. I know that they would enjoy it as well. So I could see people all over Mississippi, and of course Tennessee coming to your facilities. I mean, it sounds like a tremendous opportunity. Number one, for education, and also, to have a good time. I mean, we all need
Absolutely.
walking trails. So.
Well, tourism is booming in the state of Mississippi.
Yes.
And we have civil rights, Civil War, the blues, rock and roll. But a lot of times that first American history and the depth of that history is overlooked. And so now, the Choctaws down in Philadelphia, they have a cultural center and they have some other amenities as well. And Mississippi's 2 museums, when that was built, they have a section on first American history too. But the Chickasaw Heritage Center will be the first of its kind, in terms of size and what it'll offer. And so we're just looking to be another piece in that puzzle of cultural heritage tourism for the state of Mississippi.
Well, tell us a little bit about the Chickasaw Inkana Foundation.
Yes. So, the Chickasaw Inkana Foundation was started in 2014 with a mission to preserve, protect, and interpret Chickasaw history and culture in the historic homeland. And of course, that homeland is North Mississippi, Northwest Alabama, Western Tennessee, and far southwestern Kentucky. And, we preserve endangered archaeological sites. We provide public outreach and education. And then we also are pushing the Chickasaw Heritage Center.
This cultural center, Brady, I'm so impressed and grateful for people that have vision and dreams. And I can see that even in my own education in Kansas City, there was so much about the Native American experience that was never taught. And with this cultural center, I can see busloads of high school students weekly coming to learn about the real history of Mississippi. I'm willing to bet that 99% of the people don't realize that. I don't know if it came up as far as Tupelo, but it came awfully close. That the Gulf of Mexico extended all the way up past Jackson and almost to Tupelo. We have so much history that is not taught. And I think that is part of the problem we're facing today. You've got a degree in political science. You may agree or disagree. But I think if we don't teach where we have been, we are bound to repeat it. And
I'm with you 100%.
Not always good.
I'm with you 100%. As a lover of history and a lover of culture, if we don't look back on what has happened in the past, it's very hard for us to see where we're going, and not to make the same mistakes.
Yeah. Were the Chickasaws a peace-loving nation?
The Chickasaw people were known for their great ability to defend themselves well.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And so, one of the things in the Heritage Center that you'll learn about are the French conflicts
Right.
in 1736 that happened here in Tupelo, where the Chickasaw defeated the French and their Choctaw allies twice. One battle being the uh, Battle of Chocalisa, or the Battle of Oklahoma, that's in Choctaw, which took place over off Brooks Road around the TVA Service Center, and then one 2 months later that happened behind the middle school in what's today Lee Acres.
Yeah.
And so those two major battles against the French really weakened their ability to take control of land this far up close to the Mississippi River. Now, of course, those conflicts began in 1699 when the French landed in the Gulf of Mexico and eventually started trading with inland tribes, specifically the Choctaw. And so you had the English that were making their way west from the colonies and had been trading with the Chickasaw for a while. You had the French coming up from the south and trading with the Choctaw, and the French wanted control of the trade, and the English wanted to maintain, their control of the trade. So the French became quite aggressive in trying to have more influence. And so, the French began encouraging consistent aggravation,
I mean,
which eventually culminated in the Battle of 1736.
it seems to me that the Tupelo area, and it's probably all the other areas in the country, but I am really impressed with the amount of history that the Tupelo area provides in the development of the northern half of Mississippi. I'm just astounded by it the more I learn. And
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
the placard back by the middle school, I've read it several times, but can you tell us a little bit about that battle with the French? What was it over?
Yes. So that was the second of two battles. The first one took place March 25th, 1736, and that was the one over by the TVA Service Center. And then on May 26th, 1736, the Battle of Hakia took place, and that's the marker that you're talking about.
Right.
And so Governor Bienville, who was over the French colonies, wanted to destroy the Chickasaw, partially because of the 1729 revolt at Fort Rosalie in Natchez, where the Natchez Indians revolted against the French, and that began the French Natchez War, in which the Natchez were defeated. But there were contingents of Natchez that the Chickasaw took in and brought to this area. And that infuriated the French even further. So they decided that they needed to annihilate the Chickasaw. And so they made their way up the Tombigbee River and met with around 800 Choctaws around Amory and started making their way towards what's today Tupelo. At the same time, Pierre d'Artaguet and a contingent of Allied First Americans and French made their way down the Ohio River to the Mississippi and landed at Chickasaw Bluffs, which is today Memphis. So that group traveled from Memphis to what is today Tupelo, and they were on time. Bienville and the others coming up to Tombigbee were running late, and so the first battle, it was meant for both groups to coalesce and then attack the Chickasaw villages together, but it didn't happen that way, fortunately. And so Pierre d'Artaguet and his group were defeated in that first battle in March, and then 2 months later, Bienville and his group are late, and they're making their way to what is today Tupelo, and the Choctaw lead them to the southern villages instead of the northern villages, because there was a battle a couple years before that where a Choctaw leader had been killed, and so the Choctaw wanted to attack the southern villages first, and so Bienville didn't really have much of a choice. And so the goal was to attack and defeat Kia, and then move on to where the French were defeated 2 months ago. But of course that didn't work out for the French too well. uh,
No.
no. So they around 3 o'clock in the afternoon on May 26th, the battle began, and French forces and others were making their way up the ridge line to attack the forts, and they were caught in a crossfire between two different forts, and they lost around 70 soldiers very quickly, and it turned into the French being hunkered down behind some scattered houses and structures, and they had these very early forms of grenades uh, at this time, where they had to put the wick in and then they had to light it and they had to throw it. But the French were leaving the wicks too long, and so the Chickasaws were just picking them up and throwing them back. The entire battle didn't last too long. A retreat was ordered, and the Choctaw were on a ridge just behind there, giving volleys to help the French retreat. Um, and so that neither battle ended well for the French, and there's a lot of interesting history there that I encourage people to look into. There's a great book by a man named Jim Atkinson, who's an archaeologist and worked for the National Park Service for years. He was really ahead of his time in terms of preserving Chickasaw history and culture. He was very vocal about preserving that. And he actually is the one that drove by the paint where the pain management center was being built, and knew that there was a Chickasaw village there, and went up there and saw the work was being done, saw that they had found a village, and actually had the work stopped, where Mississippi Department of Archives and History had to come in and contract with Mississippi State to do the excavations. And so he wrote a book called Splendid Land, Splendid People, Chickasaw History to Removal. And it is a fantastic book that gives a glimpse into early Chickasaw history. It was supposed to be 2 volumes and around 800 pages, but the University of Alabama Press condensed it into about 321 pages. And the full manuscript is actually down at Mississippi State in their archives. But,
and the name of the book is
Splendid Land, Splendid People.
Yeah.
Chickasaw Indians to Removal.
This has been so very educational.
Yes.
And I think this is what our podcasts are about, educating people, whether it's politics or history or whatever. But
absolutely.
I think I'm safe to say that nobody in our listening audience has heard any of this history of the Chickasaws, let alone.
I know I haven't, so I'm guilty.
Yeah, it's not taught. It's not taught in the schools, in high school anyway.
Right.
I guess you get it when you get in college and you get into anthropology or.
Well, Jim, we are looking at changing that. So, Chickasaw Nation has developed curriculum that is shared with schools in Oklahoma, and we've been sharing it with schools here in Mississippi. We actually have programming where some individuals from Chickasaw Nation will come out with some educators and provide curriculum and education on teaching that curriculum. And we've done that in Memphis, and we'll be doing it in Tupelo later this year. And so
Okay.
we're working on it. We're working on getting that history and that culture included into Mississippi history curriculum.
Well,
I would be
Absolutely.
remiss if I
whatever
didn't
we
ask.
could do to help you, that would be, just you know where you are, and you know how to find us. So yes, this has been tremendous, and we appreciate it.
How
Now
do you,
I do,
David?
yes.
Let me interrupt you for a second. Brady, and if somebody's interested in more information about the Incana Foundation, how do they go about joining it or finding information about it?
Yes. So you can go to incana.org and learn about the Chickasaw Inkana Foundation, and you can join the Chickasaw Inkana Foundation as well. And then to learn more about the Chickasaw Heritage Center, you can go to ChickasawHeritageCenter.com and learn about what we're doing there. We have a new website that we're going to be releasing here in the next couple of months. And so the old one is up right now, and you can actually become a charter member of the Chickasaw Heritage Center, and so you can find out ways to join that and help us finish the center. Join our journey. The capital campaign is the journey home, and we want everyone to feel like they can join us and join this journey to help complete the Chickasaw Heritage Center.
What does it cost to join the journey?
So charter membership starts at $250, and you get a beautiful limited edition medallion and a certificate. But there are levels that go, upwards through corporate level giving,
Right.
with different perks that you can learn about on the website.
But all right, if people are interested, but don't have 250, but can afford like 25 a month, is there a payment
Absolutely.
plan?
Absolutely. And you can provide whatever donation you can to the Chickasaw Heritage Center, and then, like I mentioned as well, you can join the Chickasaw Inkana Foundation. We provide different programs, and then we also send out newsletters and updates for what we're doing.
Living here in Tupelo, I am really excited about this and have been. And I'm glad to know now that I can join the Incana Foundation and become part of making history continue to live on.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. Well, this has been Mississippi Happenings. We do appreciate you listening. Please, questions, comments, suggestions, you can reach us at mshappenings1@gmail.com. That's mshappenings, the number 1@gmail.com. And as always, may we never become indifferent to the suffering of others. Thanks.
And may I add one?